All right, this is Phil Simborg. I'm here with Jorgen Granstedt, who just recently won the Monte Carlo World Championships, and he's only the second person to win it 3 times. Tim Holland won it many, many years ago. Only a couple of people have even won it twice. I believe only, aside from Tim Holland, Roberti and Meyerberg. And Jorgen not only won it this year, he did it in an amazing way. He came from the loser's bracket to beat Joe Russell in the finals by winning 2 matches in a row. And I don't have to tell you how great a player Joe Russell is. He was shooting for his second world championships, and I play with him often and work with him often, and he is an awesome player. So I want to congratulate you on behalf of the world of backgammon. You've done something really, really amazing. I imagine you were a little excited about that, huh?
Yeah, it was really fun to win it. I didn't expect it when I lost in the first round to Mark Olsen. I mean, then it was a long way to go at that point.
Oh, you lost in the first round, and how many matches in a row did you have to win?
I had to win 11.
11 in a row. I know that 10 in a row is 1,000 to 1 odds. 11 to 1 is what? 10,000 to 1?
It's twice that. Like 2,000.
Oh, 2,000 to 1. That's right. You keep going by 0.5. 2,000 to 1 odds after losing the first match. That's terrific. I know that your wife was with you. Either that or it was your girlfriend, right?
With my wife, Liz.
It was your wife. Good. So we're not getting you in trouble. I did meet her. I was just kidding. And do you have any kids too?
I have a son, Jason, 12 years.
And was he with you?
No, he was not with us this time, no.
Uh-huh. And give me let's do a little historical background for people who don't know you. Where you grew up, where you live, what do you do for a living, your education. Give us a little background, please.
Born in Sweden, raised up in Stockholm. Started to play backgammon about mid-80s. Started to take it seriously around 87, 88, when I started to play on a professional basis. Went on to do that for 12, 13 years. I mostly played backgammon.
So backgammon was your profession?
Yeah. I mean, basically, yeah. We also did some sports betting and a little bit card games and things like that. We had a great club in Stockholm where I spent most of my time. So, but
I see. And now I understand you don't live in Sweden at this time?
No, I've been in Malta. That's in small island in the Mediterranean Sea. Been here for like 11 years soon. Worked a little bit in an online gaming business that's big down here. There's many companies here.
So you must be really good at math and statistics and those kinds of things to have a job like that and to be this good at backgammon, right?
Yeah, I'm good with numbers in my head, calculating fast and getting approximate numbers quickly. That's my strength.
And when you play backgammon over the board, do you have the take points in the match equity table memorized, or do you sort of calculate those things as you go?
I use a formula for match equity. It's called the Janowski formula. I'm not sure if you heard about it, but
yes, it's very similar to Neil's numbers. I know they're very close.
They're very close, yes. So yeah, that's the formula I use.
Yeah. And have you got do you do a lot of study? Do you play on XG or do you read books? How have you continue to hone your game?
I was surprised I played so well because I really haven't studied the game for the last 10 years. I have XG, of course, and also opened up a subscription on this Norwegian guy, Terje, his Backgammon Studio.
Yes.
That's a great tool. But I don't spend that much time studying. I find it hard to improve by studying now at my age. I mean,
how old are you?
I'm 53 on Saturday.
Oh, you make me very depressed. I'm 71, and you're saying it's hard to study. And I'm teaching and playing backgammon about 8 hours a day. And my game's got a long way to go, a lot further than yours. It depresses me to hear you say it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can learn stuff, and but it's harder to memorize things compared to like 20 years ago. But I think I really rely a lot because I studied the game so hard in the 80s and 90s. So you probably spent like.
Well, from what I understand, from what I understand, the game has changed a lot from the 80s and 90s, though. Maybe not that much, but what you tell me. What do you think? Is the game much different now than it was in the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, I think it's more race oriented now. After the bots came, they showed us that the race is the most important factor, or the pip count, you would say.
Another thing I've noticed is in the 80s and 90s, they always tried to play pure. They would never make the 2-point or the 1-point, and you would blitz less. Do you agree that that's changed also?
Yeah, I mean, on the like 2-1 and 4-1, yeah, everyone was, and 5-1, everyone was slotting the 5-point at that time. Splitting was something for like weaker players. And then the bots came and changed that a little bit. I mean, it's a little bit a pity. It would be better if the bots told us that we should be even more complex backgammon, because the game simplified a little bit, I think.
You think it's simplified, so it's not as much of a
compared, I
challenge.
mean, you don't see that many. I think it's quite a big difference if you start a game by, for example, 2-1, you slot on the 5 compared to splitting. The probability to get a prime versus prime game or a backgammon is much higher if you slot compared to splitting. And since most play now split, you don't see these games popping up as often as you used back in the 80s, 90s.
Do you find yourself trying to play the best technical play every time, or do you find yourself, because when you sit down, you're usually better than most of the people you play, do you find yourself playing for a more complicated game intentionally?
Yeah, a little bit. I like to slot on the opening moves and bring, for example, a 4-3. I like to take 2 down. In theory, probably better to split up, but
No. Currently, XG likes 2 down with 4-3.
all right, yeah. Anyway, it's very close between them. I mean, equity, but it changes the game a little bit, and I like to try to get a more.
Well, that's interesting. So let's just take a look. We got XG sitting right here. We have a 4-3 opening play for money, and of course, we know all these plays will change at different scores. And look what a huge difference it is, 0.001.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Okay, I stand corrected. It's not a big deal at all. You're right. So, so making this play does lead to a more complicated game than the split. And I can.
Yeah, for example, if your opponent now counters with like 2-1, he's supposed to slot his 5, and now you start to get a point versus. For example, it's even like on the opening roll.
Yeah, and I know that Mochi almost always slots with the 4-1, which we can see here is not that tiny an error, but he does it because he believes it leads to a more complicated game, and he knows he can outplay most of his opponents.
Yeah.
Very good.
That idea too, yeah.
You made a comment that you were surprised you played so well. I haven't gotten a chance to see what was your PR in the finals?
The first match was not very good for either. I think I played around 5 in that, and in the second one to the 13, I played about 3.9. I started to get my matches recorded when I came into the money on the stream, and those 4 games before that, I played around 3.5.
Very good.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, for those not familiar with what we're talking about, PR stands for performance rating, which XG, Extreme Gammon, will give you a rating based on how much equity you give away by making mistakes. And if you play perfectly, you play at 0. And the best players in the world are playing under 4 PR, and that's what Jorgen did towards the end of the tournament. And again, earlier in the tournament, we don't know, your matches weren't recorded. I think someday a lot more matches will be recorded. But would you say you're playing a lot better? Well, you won the World Championship in 1999 and 2001. It was 2 years apart, which is pretty amazing in itself. And I know back then we had some unbelievable players, as we do now. You had, I don't know exactly who was at those tournaments, but you had Leverman and Mac Ballard and and Roberti. You got a lot of really tough competition that were all legends back then, and we've got new legends being made today. Would you say it was harder to win back then than now? Our players, is it more competitive today than it was then?
It was a larger field back then. I think when I won in '99, it was like 260 players in the main compared to 140 this year, and so it's obviously harder to beat the field of 260 players.
Isn't it true though that there are more players today playing under 5 PR and or playing well than there were back then?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's with the help of this XG gammon today, you can study the game and probably easy to get down under 5 than it was back then.
I had one more technical question for you. Then I want to look at some positions with you, and then I have a couple more that I'll ask you later. Do you have a formula that you use for racing?
For the pip count?
No, for deciding when to double and when to take in races.
I think we had back in the days with the Roberti came up with a book. He said initial double about 8% and the redouble about 10% lead, and then you take around 12%. I think I still rely on those numbers, and then you obviously look a little bit on the position.
I see. So you take into account wastage and crossovers and checkers off on top of that idea.
Yeah. But also you take into account your opponent also, because if you have your cube on the 2, you maybe not want to redouble if it's a weak opponent. Theoretical cube. So that's also a factor. I think it's important. So
you obviously are keeping your game sharp with XG. Are you also playing online? I mean, I imagine you don't have a big club there in Malta.
No, it's small. We have some players here, but I rarely play. I played a little bit on grid gammon with Nevzat. Before Monte Carlo, yeah.
Yes, Nevzat Dogen from Denmark, and he was in Monte Carlo as well, and another great player who loves playing online, and a
world champion also. He was 2 or 3 years ago, I think.
Yes, great guy. He and I went to dinner in Monte Carlo several times, and played and looked at some positions. The guy was very impressed with his game and his energy. His energy is amazing. He's just fun. He's always happy.
He loves to play.
Yeah. It's just that's the main reason I go to Monte Carlo is I'm not really trying to win, although I did fairly well and got pretty far the last 2 years. But the people that I get to meet and spend time with, people like you and Nesvat and Joe Russell and the other great players who are there, Mochi and of course and Michi, it's just really fun, and you learn a lot in the discussions and looking at the positions. So let's take a look at a couple of positions that you sent me that you thought were interesting, and let's share them and share your thoughts. Let me put the first one in. This is a 4-3 to play for red. Let me see if I can get this little bar that I have here out of the way so we can see the score. It is a match to 13. Red is winning 8-6, and blue is holding a 2 cube, and red has a 4-3 to play. And when I first looked at this, I was wondering why this was such an interesting position. So why don't you tell me?
Yeah, I don't think the position in itself is maybe not that interesting, but I think it shows how hard it is to play backgammon on a perfect level, because I got this role, and it's only 2 ways you can play it, and I didn't spend very much time on it, but then I found out afterwards that the difference between the best and second play is over 0.1, which amazed me.
All right. Well, before we show the right answer and you go through the thought process, you did say there's only 2 ways to play, and I think everybody in the world would make the prime with the 3, and then the real question is, do you come out with the 4 to start moving the back checkers, or do you move the checker off of here? Am I right? Those are the only 2 plays?
Yeah, these are the only 2 plays. Yeah.
Okay. So what was your thought process, and what play did you make?
I didn't spend that much time on it because I didn't think that they could differ very much between them, and I was pretty confident that I made the right play because I went out with a 4 to 16 points because having 2 guys trapped, even if it's just a 4 prime, some of my big doubles can make the crack. So this looked like a natural play to me.
The fear of that play is that you might get counter primed and blitzed and then have to crack your board or something. Let's see what XG says. XG says that you had made the wrong play. Yeah,
and I rolled this out, and it becomes even bigger mistake.
So it's an even bigger mistake if you roll it out. Right now, it's showing to be a blunder. A blunder is defined as anything more than 0.08. And when I first saw it, I thought this is a no-brainer. Just make your play. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
happy to say I'm as dumb as you.
Yeah, I think most top players would actually go out because it's natural. You don't want to get stuck between a 4 pound with 2 checkers.
Yeah, and I thought, the worst case scenario when you make your play, let's take a look and see what it looks like. So maybe he does make the 5 point, make some more points, and eventually his board will crash. That
Yeah,
doesn't
still,
seem
yeah,
so
exactly.
bad.
What's the problem? That's what. Even if it was like a 6-1, that's a nice number. I mean, it's. But it turns out that even if it doesn't point me at all, I can crack with aces, 2-1, and double aces. And
Uh-huh.
and if he makes my 5 point, I can also crack from the bar if I roll 4-2 and double 1 and 1-2. So and these numbers seems to be the key in this position. And when on XG you can make this dice distribution to see what numbers makes a difference.
This is dice distribution. You mean for your opponent after you make the play?
Yeah,
Let me show you. Let me show the watchers how to do that. You highlight both positions
yeah,
and you right click and then look at dice distribution. And now side by side, you can see what is likely to happen after each roll. And this one, first of all, something else that I always do is hit 4-ply to get a better reading on dice distribution, because when it comes up at 1-ply, that's just not good enough for a player of your level. But you can actually go through the rolls here and see what's going to hurt you and what doesn't from each of the two rolls. I don't want to give a lesson on NXG right now. I'm more interested in you.
yeah,
But you said something else that I found very fascinating, and it's about time management. If you are playing with the clock, as we always do now in major matches, which I think is a terrific improvement to the game over many years ago, when you could have played a 13-point match, could have taken 6 hours, and you'd never have a spectator left, and much less the players. So now with the clock, you have to worry about time management. And what Jorgen said is he didn't think I'm sure if you had unlimited time, you would take more time, but you didn't think it was that big a difference, so you made the play. And that's a great lesson right there. And that's the one that I've learned the hard way. I've seen people waste their time on plays where they want to get the right play, and maybe they do, but what the difference isn't that great. So you make your judgment, is this really going to matter that much? And if it doesn't, take your best shot. Of course, in this case, you were wrong, but I know you wouldn't want to make this big a mistake intentionally.
No, but even with more time, I'm pretty sure I would make the wrong play. I didn't see that it was.
I don't think you're allowed to be this honest, Jorgen. I'm not used to it in backgammon. But again, this play, the right play wins the game a little more, about 1.5% more, but it also wins more gammons, about another 2.5% more gammons. And that's what it all boils down to. This game is all math for those of you who aren't experts in the game. It all boils down to math. Often you can't calculate the math over the board, but that's what it's going to boil down to, is whether or not you statistically and mathematically win more games and more gammons. Gammons are double games. And this is one of the reasons why Jorgen, and just about, in fact, I'm not even sure I should say just about, every top backgammon player I know has strong math skills. But you don't have to be a mathematician to play the game well. But if you want to be at the level of Jorgen, a world champion, you really have to understand and know the math behind the game. Any more you want to talk about this position, or should we move on?
Yeah, we can move on. Yeah.
Okay, let's do another one. I want to make sure we're under an hour because I don't want to lose people, just like we don't want to lose people in a match. Okay, so here's a position where the score is 1-1 in a match to 19. So the score is really out of it. The cube's in the middle. And now blue is on roll, thinking about whether to double or not. And the question is, if you were blue, should you double? And if you were red, should you take or pass? Now, the first question I have for you, Jorgen, is were you blue or red?
I was red. So this was in the final, and there was Joe's decision. And
Okay.
And I was watching on the stream, and Falafel was commentating. And while I was making my move that came up to this position, Falafel said that blue will have a very strong after, regardless what my move would be. He would probably have a very strong double, and Joe look at it for like 5-6 seconds, not much time, and on roll that said Palapesek like, no, it was a big mistake.
Well, one of the reasons is I was sitting next to Falafel with XG, and I put the position in and saw right away what the answer was. So Falafel's gut reaction, which is usually right, because as we know, he's one of the best players in the world, but he had the advantage of my sitting next to him, cheating a little bit with XG, and we found out that this was not a double. Joe did double, and you of course took. Is that correct?
He didn't double. So
he didn't double.
No. So what my point is here is that the key why it's not a double is because I'm up 26 pips in the race. Because the blues position looks nice, right? I mean,
it looks. Oh, I have to admit, when Falafel said he thought this was a double, I agreed with him.
Yeah, and if I was watching, sitting there watching the game, I would probably like say, yeah, why not? I mean, but this shows how important it is to know what the race is. Because if you don't count out the pip count here, you may easily make a mistake here. Even red, some plays may even pass as a red.
Okay, again, this is going to be on YouTube. So for those people not that experienced in backgammon, the pip count here, as Jorgen was saying, red has a big lead. He's up by 26 pips, even though it's blues roll, and the average roll is about 8. What Jorgen is saying is that in order to win this game, red, if he doesn't get hit, needs to roll 114 little dots on his dice, remembering that doubles count as doubles, whereas blue has to roll 140. So if you get into a race, and of course this isn't a pure race, blue might be able to make a prime, which is 6 in a row, and stop red from getting out, or you might hit him and so on. And those things are the variables that make it complicated. But the race is so strong that it's not even a double, even though blue has a terrific positional advantage. I'm sure if we change the position and hurt red's race some and help blues race some, then you would have a double.
Correct.
When you are thinking about doubling, do you use Woolsey's law? Are you familiar with Woolsey's law?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
So I know that Joe Russell is, because Joe and I have discussed positions like this many times. And Joe's first question shouldn't be whether or not I should double or not as blue. His first question should be, is Jorgen taking? And he knows a player of your skill level is not about to drop a cube where he's up 26 pips, only has one checker back, and is probably not going to get gammon much, even if things go wrong. So his first conclusion had to be that you were taking, because if he was using Woolsey's law, and again, I know he does, if he thought you might pass, he would definitely double. But he knows you wouldn't pass. And by the way, I wouldn't be surprised if Joe did double people in a chouette here. Joe plays chouette and money games all the time in LA at the club there, at the AR club, and I play with him quite a bit. And I've seen him double positions like this and get drops. I think many people would drop this if they're not a very high level player.
Yeah, I can imagine some players dropping this also. So what I really was stressed out that's to reach the top level, you need to have a technique to find out the pip count one way or other.
How fast could you count the pips in this position over the board?
I'm fast pip counter. I probably do it in less than 10 seconds.
10 seconds?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I've been working on my cluster counting and working on it for years, and I'm sure this would take me at least 30 seconds, and I'm very good at it.
Yeah, I think I'm one of the fastest around, yeah.
Oh my God, that's a big advantage right there.
Yeah, but I spent quite some time to find techniques to get the pip count right, so to always have it.
Well, this is a real lesson. I guarantee you that all these players who are good open players but nowhere near your level, they underestimate the value of being able to count pips quickly. For one thing, it's less mental anguish, and for another thing, getting it accurate is critical. And the other thing is I found is if you don't count pips well, then you don't count pips. You just don't do it because you get lazy.
Yeah, exactly. So some players start to count pips when it comes to the pure race. And miss out to hold the game between from the beginning up until the race. So,
wonderful.
But I mean, I'm a quick counter, so helps me to I don't have to spend energy really to make the pip count. Usually I do it when my opponent's thinking about his roll. I don't have much else to think about, so I have a habit to just count the pips to have it up to date. But I played against a German guy in the team tournament, and he's an unbelievable fast pip counter. He does it a half of the time of what I'm doing. I have no idea how you can be that fast. So.
Really? Was that Tillman?
Pardon?
Was that Tillman Socian?
It's a German guy.
Yeah, Tillman I know is a very fast counter. He's a German counter. Kieran Davis is probably one of the fastest U.S. counters that I know.
Yeah.
And
so I knew he was fast, so I asked him how he was doing it, and he had pretty much the same technique as me, cluster up. But he seems to just be even faster to just add the numbers up. So
that's fascinating.
But
Jack Hussein wrote the article in the book on cluster counting, and he was probably the fastest in the world in his day. And that's the article that I copy and send to all my students to teach them, and I teach the importance of doing it. But I don't know too many people that can do this in 10 seconds.
Yeah,
that's wonderful. All right, let's go on to. Well, let me ask you a couple questions before we look at the third position that you have. Do you have any mentors that helped you, that teach you and work with you, or anyone particularly that you look up to in backgammon that's been a real model for you?
As I said, I haven't studied the game very much the last 10 years, but before that, when I played all time, we have a good community in Sweden with some strong players. Then the strongest of them all was Jorgen Granstedt. He was like at this time I think was the number one in the world, and we played together a lot, and we went over to Los Angeles and played at the Cavendish West, and so we studied some together and discussed positions.
And I met Jerry, and he's also a fine gentleman. I guess that's common amongst all the Swedes that I've met. They're good sports. I haven't seen a Swede throw a cube or throw a tantrum over the board. I'm really keeping your calm is, I think, a wonderful trait that you all seem to have.
Yeah, and also before the bots came in, I think in general we discussed positions more at that time, because now you can put in a position in the hotel room after the match and find out equity. But around then, the only way you can find out it was to ask your players around what they thought and discuss, and everyone had a different opinion. So we played props all the time, and it was like a more general discussion about the game at that time.
Well, I'm old enough to remember props and hand rollouts, and I used to sit there with Jake Jacobs, and he was one of my mentors, and we'd take a position and play it out a bunch of times, and that would be our way of finding out what the right play was. And of course, it was very ineffective because we probably were playing it wrong along the way anyway. But
yeah, it was hard work. I mean, it could take you like 8 hours to just roll out the position, and even then, you'd have no idea if you had the right answer.
Well, I'll tell you a secret, and I know I'm giving something away. Jim Pasco still does that all the time by hand because he doesn't believe, especially in these back games. In fact, this is a good place for me to show you a position that Pasco and I have been talking about and working on quite a bit, and I want to get your opinion on this. This is a back game play where a 7-point match, but it could just as easily be a money game. With red having a 6-2 to play here, how would you play this 6-2?
So what you want is the objective is obviously to let blue crack here as often as possible. Yeah, what would I do with the board? It's not easy. One play would probably just come out from the 24 point without hitting to blue could crack with maybe double fours and double fives.
Okay, so just play quietly and let him run out of time. That's one approach. There are very many approaches to this play. Anything else that you might consider?
Yeah, another play is would you hit and then slot your 9 point to make the 6 prime.
Hit and make the 6 prime, and the other way to cause them to crash is by, if you make the 9 point, then the other checkers have no place to go except downstairs to the 1 point.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good play. Well, again, this is the kind of play that Jim Pasco and others don't believe XG's evaluation. Let me just show you what XG says. It will start there, and then I won't belabor this, but just to show you how hand rollout's worth, XG shows this play, which never occurred to me. A second best play was the one that you mentioned, and a third best play was this. The play that Jim Pasco likes and other people like, believe it or not, hitting twice. Look at this play. Hit here and hit off the 2 point. Now, this is a creative play, you have to admit.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And the long run of this is you end up just getting with about 12 or 14 checkers back and gammoning and backgammoning quite a bit as he runs out of time. Of course, this could backfire. He could roll double twos, double fours, double ones, hit two, come out, go forward. XG would call this play a monster blunder, but doing hand rollouts long enough, and not just this play, many other plays that Jim's been working on, he's willing to bet that he can beat the computer or any human being by making his plays his way. And the only way to prove it, because the bot disagrees with him, is by rolling it out and playing it out.
Yeah, yeah.
So
it takes
this
a long
game,
time.
this is to those people who say that backgammon has been solved by the bots. I would think you would agree that it hasn't been completely solved yet.
No, these deep back games is probably not played perfectly by the bots, but
Yeah.
they don't occur very often. I mean,
Well, that's one of the things that I invented a game with that I call Pasco Gammon. Jim and I and many others, Falafel's been playing it a lot. We start out in this position, and red's on roll, and we play this for money, and then we trade sides, and it gives you a lot of practice. It's Knack Gammon does a lot of the same thing too. I'm getting off topic. I want to get back to you. So let's, but I wanted to get your perspective on that. You pretty much agree that you've got to be creative, and they're not easy, and this game is still not automatic. Let's get to the third position you sent me. Red to play 6-5. Again, it's a match to 13. Red's winning 8-4. Blue's holding the cube. Red to play 6-5. Well,
yeah, this is the beginning for a small disaster for me. This match, I was up 8-4. This was against Joe in the second match to 13.
So everybody comes out with a 6, and the only question is, you stay there to try and pick up the other checker or keep going?
Yeah. Are you greedy for gammon, or are you moving on? And it turns out it's a close call. But anyway, I decided to. You can check what the bot likes in this play. But I think it was a close call, marginally better to run to the midpoint.
Yeah, very, very close call.
Yeah. Anyway, I stayed at the bar and moved in. I played 24-18, 7-2. And then I rolled my bad number. After that, I rolled 4-2.
And did you lose the game?
Yeah, because what happens is the only way I can do it is hit him, and so that's on the deuce, and then I roll a 4-2.
Well, you could refuse to hit him and just break the 6 point.
I could, but it turns out that I'm better off by hitting here.
I would have had problems making that decision also, but it would have been a blunder to just clear the 6. Oh, wow. Look at this. Clearing the 6 point would be ridiculous. So you do hit. You get more gammons. Even if he hits you back, you're in better shape. So you made that play crack. Did he obviously roll the 6?
Yep. No, he rolls double 6 from the bar, yeah.
Double 6 for the bar. That lucky Joe, although he obviously wasn't that lucky because he lost. So now.
Yeah, but they won this game, though.
Let's go back to your original play for 1 second. And if gammons were much more important to you, if you were behind in the match, maybe the other play would swing, don't you think?
Yeah, maybe. But thought that was why I made my play, because I was on 8. I thought that a gammon would get me to Crawford 12. That's important point to have. So I thought gammons was quite important. But
Well, let's reverse the score and see if it changes first of all, because that's my theory. Is it would. It's still small.
But now it's something. No, you have to change the dice. It's a 6-5, right?
Oh, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Details. All right.
Yeah, still very close. Yeah.
Still very close.
Yeah.
Still very close. So because the number of gammons that you win is 5% more, but you're giving up 2% wins with the play. So if gammons are worth about 0.5 in a lot of scores, you're almost a tie on a trade-off on gammons and wins.
Yeah. So, but the interesting thing was the 2 rolls later when I got the 4 cube. That was let's see if we can.
Tell me where to put them.
Yeah, 1 second here. Because I don't call the rolls exactly here.
He rolled double 6s.
So what happens is I have 2 on the bar. And then I have my 6-point open, and I have a 5-point board with the spares on my deuce point.
Okay.
And he has 3 on his midpoint. And then he has checkers, a spare on the 14 and the 16.
Spare on the...
Yeah, blot on the 16. And if you move that back, move that out 2 pips. Yeah, and then you put another blot on his 14 point. And then he has nothing on his 8 point. And he has 1 on his 6 point. Only 1 player. It's a blot on his 6. 2 on his 4 point, 4 on his 3, and then the last 3 checkers on his deuce point.
Wow, it's hard to imagine how he even got to here.
What happened was after he rolled double 6, I came around again, and he hit me a double shot with a 5-3, and then this position came up.
Okay, so now he's holding a 2 cube and he doubled you here. I got to get the score right now. You're the one winning 8-4.
Yeah, move the point, his blot on the 17 to the 16 to get exactly right. That one, yeah. There we go, yeah.
Okay, so he's on roll and he gave you the cube at 4 here.
In 4, yes.
Yeah, I certainly would. I have to admit, I would give that cube in a second because of the score too, and 2 up. Did you take or pass?
This was probably my toughest decision in the whole tournament, because 1 minute before this, I had him on a gammon. I was up to get the 12-4 lead, and the match was basically over. And now I'm facing a 4 cube where he possibly could win a gammon and turn the match around. So I was very